This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.
Barry Morphew, he's back in the headlines just when you thought it was over. Actually, I think a lot of us thought this may happen, and this did happen. He has been charged again with the murder of his wife, Suzanne Morphew. New evidence has been discovered, just like her body has since been discovered under all of that snow. And surprise, surprise, the toxology brought back some information that Barry was hoping they probably wouldn't find. Bam! Literally, that's what it's called. Bam! This is a tranquilizer dart that Barry had access to. Barry was the only one allegedly who had access to this, and guess what? That combination of chemicals was found in her body. So the question now is, well, did he tranquilize her before her death, or did that cause her death, or what happened here? Joining me to discuss, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent. Jennifer, let's go back in time a little bit to the case here and where this all began and where we're sitting today, because this new forensic evidence really points in the direction of Barry, who's already admitted many, many times over he likes to chipmunk hunt and he likes to do other things with tranquilizers, including hitting deer to take the antlers off of them. Highly illegal. But it's something he's up to. How do you think this is going to play now that we have these new charges against him?
Well, this is one of those cases that was charged, and actually, even back then, the probable cause was just overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But there were issues. There were issues in the office of the prosecutor, and essentially, it was dropped without prejudice. And then, lo and behold, Suzanne Morphew's body was found in 2023. Remember, this alleged incident occurred really May 9th, would have been the murder of 2020 into 2010, when, it's believed that he somehow disposed of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are. That body just gave so many clues, specifically that BAM was in the bones.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have BAM in the bones, and then also the fact that it was shown that the body was moved, essentially, because all the indication is that it wasn't originally there to decompose.
Mm-hmm.
You have even stronger probable cause that he committed this crime.
It's a lot of, a lot here. Bam in the bones. It's, it's horrible. I mean, it sounds strange to say for such a horrible case, but it sounds kind of funny in a weird way. Bam in the bones. If it's in the bones, this is not just in your, in what is left. And I'm not trying to be morbid here, but what is left of your flesh, if there was much left. This is deep. This is in the bones itself. Does that make this even more impactful than just if it was on the tissue and things of that nature, showing that it got that deep into her system, essentially?
Well, I think what makes it so irrefutable is the fact that it's BAM. As you mentioned leading up in the segment, BAM is a very rare tranquilizer that very few want to purchase. And it just so happened in this area, literally, Barry Morphew was the only one to buy it. The law enforcement went back and looked, and this would have been purchased actually in Indiana prior to them moving to Colorado, that it was actually purchased. And again, he was a deer farmer, if you will. And so he often had to tranquilize deer. So this is another, I think, key component to the case. This wasn't just some novice that said, I think I'll just pick up a tranquilizer gun and give this a go. He knew exactly how it worked. It's kind of complicated. You have to take a syringe and then put the BAM into the darts. And so it's a bit complicated. So he was an expert, if you will, at BAM and tranquilizing.
When it comes to something like this, I mean, the fact that it's a little more complex. You got to put it into the dart. You're not just, picking up, a bullet and putting it into your gun or loading a clip. This is a little more in depth. Does that make this even stronger type of ballistics evidence than it would be if it were just a regular old bullet from a box?
Absolutely, because of the specificity of it. It's so unique. People don't normally have BAM in their house. Now, they might have a 9mm in their house, especially in Colorado or other weaponry, but to have this unique tranquilizer that was used, a tranquilizer gun that was found in the gun safe. And another key component was the cap from one of the syringes was actually found in the dryer with men's believed to be Barry's shorts.
Mm-hmm.
So that also kind of added up. This is one of these circumstantial evidence cases that when you put all the pieces together, it leads you right down the yellow brick road to Barry Morphew.
It does, but it is a circumstantial evidence case, and that's the problem that we see in so many of these cases is, yes, let's put the pieces of the puzzle together. We have all of the pieces. It's a big Barry Morphew puzzle. His face is on it. He's in the mountains, and you just have that one little piece left to put in, but you can't find it. It's not there. Everybody can look at this and go, well, clearly this is a puzzle of Barry Morphew, but you may have a juror that goes, no, that's Bigfoot. That's Bigfoot. I don't think it's Barry. Like, well, no, it clearly is Barry Morphew. Like, who else would it be? Well, I don't know. That's not beyond. That's beyond a reasonable doubt. People don't seem to understand what that means. Okay, so we have this. We got the BAM. We got the bullet cap, which one would, I guess it would be easy to think of. Okay, you take the cap off the dart. You probably threw it in his pocket as he was loading it and all that, and then it's in the dryer. Didn't think about it, and boom, that's where it was found. Beyond that, what are some of the other strong pieces of circumstantial evidence here, and any other evidence that we had leading up to the first arrest before it was all thrown out due to the discovery violations with the prosecution?
Well, the big piece is really this is a true forensic digital evidence case.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be, to me, one of the strongest components of this prosecution, specifically FBI cast. Fortunately, handled all of it from the beginning. They are the best of the best. And they were able to put together this very interesting timeline showing phone going off, phone going on, the fact that phone pings stopped at a certain point when it's believed he left with her and he left also. So it's commensurate with his phone not pinging anymore with their home. Big gaps that also coincide, as we've seen before, in text stream type information from the vehicle. So when you line up the vehicle information and the cellular information, he basically goes dark for a period of time during what is believed to be the murder of her and the transport of her.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, he didn't do what he said he was going to do in terms of his work. He was supposed to meet other coworkers to commute to a place called Broomfield, Colorado, that evening on the 10th. Well, guess what? He decided for some reason to go there early, the early morning of the 10th, not even telling coworkers about it and not showing up to the job site except for a brief time for 2 times and not bringing his equipment to work.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed kind of like a cover up, right? Okay, I've got to dispose of the body. I've got to do this and this. And I guess I'll go to Broomfield to make it look like I went to the job site.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know how his line of work works for when they go and visit places, but it's kind of an odd place to go visit on Mother's Day morning on a Sunday. I don't know. It just seems like an odd time to be going and visiting a job site, but everybody's a little different. That did kind of stand out to me a bit. Does that stand out to you as being weird in terms of just here's where I'm going to go, and this doesn't seem to be an optimal time, especially it is Mother's Day. Why are you leaving your wife alone at home on Mother's Day? And obviously, we know there's other things are kind of in a rough spot with the affair situation going on.
Yeah, certainly I would normally think that, but it's clear, even though Barry Morphew, when initially interviewed, lied.
Mm-hmm.
He said, oh my gosh, our relationship is great. It's beautiful. She would say the same thing. Well, it was completely on the decline. She wanted a divorce. And he actually screenshotted and saved one of her text messages and got rid of everything else. Their text message strings together. But he screenshotted the one probably because this was just so damning in a sense. I mean, hurtful to him, saying it's over. It's over, Barry. It's over. Let's try to get through this civilly.
Mm-hmm. And obviously something he was not a fan of. He did not like that idea of getting the divorce. And Shortly after, it was like 3 days after is when this all occurred, after he received that screenshot. I know it was very, very close.
Yes, yeah, just within days. And, I think that's where the prosecution has a motive they've established, which again isn't part of the crime in terms of the statute. But every jury wants to know, why in the world would this guy kill his wife in this
Yeah.
horrible way?
Let's talk about possible reasonable doubt here in the case of Barry Morphew. One of the big things that they have been pointing at, the defense of Barry Morphew pointed at round one before everything went to hell, unidentified male DNA found in Suzanne's car, discovered, and it did kind of complicate the situation. And the male DNA matched up through the CODIS system to people who have been charged with sexual offenses of being offenders that's a little odd to find that like on the helmet and in the car of this. What's your take on all of that?
Well, you're exactly right. And that's going to be where the defense hangs its hat, is this DNA. We're seeing it already in the Brian Koberger prosecution. We saw it mentioned related to John O'Keefe on his pants. So this is a big deal from the standpoint of the defense has something. And it looks bad, but let's consider what the FBI experts are saying about this DNA match. That a match just means there are some elements of that DNA, not very many, by the way, that match up to a lot of different people. So then they expanded on that and said, okay, well, how many of these people are even in the vicinity? And they did their investigation and showed that even if you were to believe, like you said kind of earlier, that the Yeti or Sasquatch or something was involved, they went and made sure, or not made sure, but verified that these other third parties were nowhere in the vicinity during the crime. So, they used other investigative techniques to show it's not possible. But as you said, we've seen it before where a juror could just latch onto unknown DNA and just snow out all the other investigation that went on.
So is this a strain of DNA that not very unreliable, I guess? I mean, so much with DNA, we think, okay, if it's a match, it's a match. But this sounds like one that wasn't quite the perfect match. And I don't know the terminology off the top of my head to say this is, 1000% what it's going to be. We've heard other DNA cases, like in the Koberger case, where it's like, look, this is him, or it's like it's 1 in some octillion percent that it couldn't be. This strains of it matched up to different people in different places. They've been ruled out as even being possibly there. So what is this DNA? Why is this one turning out to be so unreliable?
Well, DNA relies on not inclusion, but exclusion. It's used to exclude, in the case of Brian Kober, as you mentioned, octillionths, more than anybody in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous number, right? So we know that everybody's excluded, so it has to be Brian's. In this case, they weren't able to exclude everybody because they don't have a full compilation of the DNA. So imagine if you just have, say, with a fingerprint, you have a couple whorls or a couple loops. Well, you don't have the entirety of the fingerprint.
Yeah.
So you're saying, okay, well, part of it matches these people, but they don't have the full full compilation of that DNA done, Tony. And the match expert, boy, I tell you, when you read his report, he explains it so well. I don't like that they use the word match, but that's just what they do scientifically, even if it means a little bit of a match or the whole match.
Yeah.
So, they scientifically, you have to at least consider it. But when you add the whole program together, it doesn't match up.
So not super solid in terms of identifying who it could be, because it through CODIS, yes, it matched these people who are in there or matched those specific type of strains, but it could match many people. I would imagine this matches a lot of people who are not in CODIS then as well, who are not convicted sexual offenders. These are just the ones that it matched up to, so not a very solid piece of DNA that was found in that vehicle, or multiple pieces that were found in that vehicle, but it still belongs to someone. Does it matter, though? It's a vehicle. And yes, obviously, she was found dead. But if we can't match this up to somebody, is there other ways of trying to see whose this is? Or does it matter in terms of the investigation? I would certainly think it matters to the defense of Barry, no matter what.
Well, I think the reason it doesn't matter was all the people that it partial matched to, they've excluded as being anywhere in the zip code during the commission of this crime. So it doesn't really matter that they can't figure out who it went back to. They weren't around anytime on May 9th or 10th, 2020. But I agree with you that this will be something that the defense continues to latch onto and try to develop.
If there wasn't enough DNA data in the DNA to do a solid match through CODIS, and I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but if the defense were to try and put this into some sort of like a familial database to try and match up to relatives like we saw with Koberger or something of that nature, would there be enough to do that to find out, who's in the general area who might be part of this, but who might have the DNA in the car? And it may mean absolutely nothing. It may mean it's somebody she had coffee with and, whatever. Somebody who picked up her bike helmet on the ground one day. There's a lot of things it could be that are absolutely null, means nothing at all. But could they do that? Could they take a look at that and see if they find anything interesting?
Well, I don't think that I'm sure familially. How do you say that?
Familially. Yeah, it's a hard one.
It's a hard one. I think that's not part of this DNA quote unquote match that they've discovered. It definitely in the report I read specifically outlined to a lot of different people, and then they narrowed that to 3 people that were in the region, and then they were able to exclude those individuals through all this investigation. So unfortunately, Tony, I don't think we're going to be able to ever know exactly whose DNA that was. Can you imagine, and I've said this too in the Koberger case, how difficult it would be with literally hundreds of people going in and out of that house over those years, even before the kids lived there, right? It's on a banister that people touch all the time. It's just so difficult. You would have to get everybody's DNA, and not only is that cost prohibitive, it's really resource prohibitive. And so but the point is, to me, they took the only 3 possibilities in that region that it partially matched to and excluded them.
And that's a big thing. Well, that'll be argued. But again, how will the jury interpret it once it gets to trial, if we get to trial? Because again, charges are brand new here right now. We're going to see how this plays out. Very likely it will get there. Here's another big point, and I'm playing devil's advocate now just to see, what do you think of some of this? The fact that his 2 daughters, their mother's dead, they still stick by dad, at least as of now, at least as from what we've seen. They've been standing by dad through all of this, new charges against him. Obviously, it'd be a very difficult thing to try and wrap your mind around, that dad may have killed mom in a fit of rage with a tranquilizer dart, but they're still there. And it's been many, many years now. Obviously, these new charges have come about, so we'll see where they stand now. But what does that say about this case, that even the daughters are not sitting there questioning any of this?
Well, we've seen it in so many cases where particularly children over sisters and parents and everything really stick by their family, by their father, for heaven's sakes. It's so hard to get your mind around. Not only do we not have our mother anymore, but our father could be responsible. I think it's something that no child would ever want to face or accept. And I don't know to the degree that they have sorted through that evidence, but my guess is who would ever want to do that as a child? So at least at this point, I think the children will continue to support him. I think the jury, if this goes to trial, which I think it will continue to, look at them. They'll be assessing him. They'll be assessing that his children are there. His children will likely testify on his behalf, even though they weren't there. To be clear, they didn't come until the 10th, and they said, "Oh my gosh, here we are for Mother's Day, and Mom's not here." And which, as you pointed out earlier, another piece that doesn't make sense. It made sense to me that Barry wasn't there, but, you know, for those girls, why would the mom be gone, like
Yeah.
initially on Mother's Day?
Yeah.
Big red light, flashing light there.
Yeah, rather bizarre. Another thing that kind of struck me about this, looking back on it, when all this broke just the other week, the fact that Barry filed that $15 million lawsuit alleging malicious prosecution, and it was ended up being thrown out of court. But if you did this and they drop the charges against you, and you have the gall to file a $15 million wrongful prosecution lawsuit, that's quite a ballsy move, to put it bluntly, if you did it. That to me struck me as a little bit odd the whole time. I would think if you have absolutely nothing to hide, yeah, go ahead, file your lawsuit. But I think that would open up the door to a lot more discovery and possibilities. I know it's been thrown out, but he had the wherewithal to file it at one point in time. Is that the work of a guilty person?
Well, I think it's the work of somebody that is just continuing with the cover up and continuing with feigning innocence to his children and to everyone else, right? You don't want to be. Yeah, I mean, just think of all the individuals that think he murdered her based on the initial indictment and all the information that was disclosed in that complaint, all those details that we're seeing again in this indictment in part. So even though you might have had charges dismissed, you still have a community and individuals who read that, and certainly in social media, everybody thinking you still did it. You might be free, might not be charged, but everybody thinks you did it. So what's that saying, Tony? The best defense is a good offense, right? So I think that that's how he was playing his cards. I think his daughters could have possibly, we don't know, but family and friends saying, listen, they prosecuted you maliciously, you should go after them. And so I could see him saying, you're right, I'm going to do it.
And just
so
playing
it
the role.
Surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah, basically calling their bluff while you're bluffing. And that's quite the move. He does seem like a guy, I mean, from the little bit that we've seen, that he's got a strong personality, and I think he's going to want to make people believe what he wants them to believe, and it's probably worked out fairly well for most of his life. But this is going to be an interesting challenge here as this begins to roll on. I'm expecting we're going to hear probably he's going to plead not guilty. I don't know. He hasn't pled yet as of our recording, correct? This has happened on, I believe, Friday.
It happened on Friday, and the first hearing, of course, is the extradition hearing. He waived extradition, meaning he said, no problem, I'm going back to Colorado.
Yep.
And so he's there to face charges, so the transportation and so forth. But yeah, at arraignment, of course, he will plead not guilty. And, I think the fight's going to be on to the extent he has the money. And then it'll probably go to the public defender, unless, he decides to get a GoFundMe. I haven't looked to see if he has one, and his daughters and everybody starts to try to rally behind his innocence and raise money. We've seen that before. So, but I don't think he has a lot compared to the first time he had that beautiful home. But now, he's purportedly living in a trailer. In fact, the owner of the trailer park was upset, calling everybody out. Listen, this isn't Barry Morphew's trailer park. This is mine. He's renting a trailer here. So lay off the, discussion about my trailer park, which I found very interesting. So it leads me to wonder what his means are at this point.
Yeah, that will play a big deal in this. Last time, I don't recall, what was the public perception on this? I mean, obviously, he's not a pretty woman from Massachusetts with a man named a Turtle backing him up. But some, I think, could look at this and go, well, there's enough evidence here that does not push it to beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you see that there's going to be a lot of public support for Barry this time around for his defense? Or is this one that is going to be more so in the line of, yeah, you probably did it, we're not getting behind you?
Yeah, the groundswell in the true crime community is certainly not that he is innocent, but we've seen it before. There's definitely a group. They seem to travel from case to case to case, and that group does everything they can to, show any sort of doubt. I'm not even going to call it reasonable, but
Yeah.
they wave the flag as if it's reasonable doubt throughout the, airwaves. So will this catch fire? I kind of doubt it. Even, his picture, I don't know if you saw his booking photo. It looked like he literally aged 30 years.
He does, yeah.
It was something.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't come off as likable. And I think people truly feel for this victim, Suzanne Morphew. 25 years, and we're just getting to substantial charges that are seemingly going to stick. So she's a very, a victim that I think a lot of people can empathize with.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.